Hey everybody, Raul here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the extraordinary honor of catching up with bassist, multi-instrumentalist, vocalist, motorcycle rider, studio mogul, all of the fun stuff that we'll be talking about, and not the least, Bass Musician Magazine contributor. You've seen her Walking the Bassline articles. We had one just last month. I know the next one's on its way here, coming out. Either it'll be out when this comes out or it's coming out soon. All of this to introduce Suzy Starlite. Yay!
Hey, hi. It's really good to finally get to see you and have a chat, you know.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Well, Suzy, there's so much exciting things as always. And I know the people that have been reading your article, Walking the Bassline, will know a little bit of your past, but to kind of bring it all together as well. How did you get started on music and particularly on bass?
Well, I grew up in Ross and Wye in Herefordshire in England, which is like in the centre. So if you just imagine the Hobbits in the Shire, that's where I grew up. My father was an agricultural engineer. My mum, Margaret, every Sunday she had a vinyl record playing session while she was making the lunch and stuff. So music was around the house all the time. And so I first started like singing because she bought the Paint My Wagon soundtrack vinyl. And so I was on the swing at the back in the garden singing, I was born under a wandering star. With that, I was like 3. And just trying to be a bass, you know, I really love that Lee Marvin kind of real deep sound.
Okay.
And so the music started, and I played harmonica, and we had Springer Spaniels growing up, and I used to get my hound Jenny to sing. So because I loved that, it's like, ooh, and you play a little tune. And then what happened then? Then I was on descant and trebles, and I was in the school choir and percussion. And then, like, when I went to grammar school at 11, but I'll tell you the one thing that was all been through my life was the fact that my family, we used to have my grandfather's piano. And I loved piano, but they'd sold it before I was born because I was the 3rd child out of 4. So everybody's house that I went to, I was drawn to the piano. I was like going up and just like, do you mind if I have a noodle, you know? And it's like, even from a little kid, you know, I'd sit on the chair. And so the piano was something I really missed, but I was always going to everybody else's houses and disappearing for an hour or two and trying to, you know, self-teach myself. And then I had a little bit on the violin, but I didn't really like that so much. And I ended up playing French horn. So I learned about orchestras and brass bands, and we did competitions and things. So I learned about arrangements and parts, and I sang alto in the school choir. And that was just like melting in luxury. I just love harmony, you know, when you've got all those voices together. And then at 16, I wanted something a bit more portable because I had to give up the French horn because I had braces put on. And but I felt that I was writing poetry at school, you know, in your English classes. And I loved Tolkien and I loved poetry, and I was like, I want to write stories. So my mum bought me an acoustic guitar. And so that's where the songwriting started really with me. And so it was an acoustic guitar that I started playing on. And I went for one lesson once, and this guy just sat there for a whole hour and basically played to me. He didn't really teach me anything. So I thought, sod that. So I went down the library and I got the Beatles songbook, Simon Garfunkel songbook, and I taught myself.
Nice.
And then my older sister, her husband at the time, Nick Stevens, he was a guitarist, right? So when he used to come round, he taught me how to play Here Comes the Sun, but proper dee-dee-dee-doo, you know, and like, and he sang Blackbird, and he was just it was just so joyous to have people to take my guitar and show me how it's played. So music was always really, it's a long story because it's been a journey, because, you know, the bass kind of found me later on. So I started off really songwriting, and then I had a Mini. And I used to go down to the River Wye, which is in the late at night, with my Mini, and I'd have one of those, you know, cassette recorders, and I'd sit there in the front seat, and I'd like press record, and raining outside because it's Britain, and I'd write songs and put them together. And then I went up to Manchester in Salford, and I did this media and performance course, which is like a tapas of things from singing, acting, musical theatre, dance. But what I didn't realise when I got in, it was like the school from Frame. It had the big red door. It was like it was 1990. But they were the first course in the country to have a degree in popular music and recording. So guess what was in the basement?
Oh, wow.
loads of analog consoles. And so there was this whole section of the college that was full of brass banders and electric guitarists and bassists, and just, it was like an amazing time. And the canteen, you can imagine, was full and vibrant with so much music and people. And I was the first person from like the more acting or performance side to do a lunchtime concert, one of the holy grails. And my band was called I Never Used to Like Brussels Sprouts. so I managed to recruit this drummer, and so we did all that kind of music thing. And I was in a folk rock band then called Megiddo, and so I was playing mandolin, and I had the two guys on the guitars, so I just played mandolin. We had a fretless bassist, Al Lowell. He used to work at Airtight Studios, and he works with I Am Clue, Johnny. He's just a really great guy. And so I had this band. We toured the folk circuit for a while, and I was songwriting original songs, and then I ended up moving to the Isle of Man, and that's when I met Simon Campbell, who I didn't realise was going to be my future musical partner and husband. So Simon heard about me through the grapevine. He came over and we were playing some songs, and we ended up just going out doing like an acoustic duo. You know, I'd play one of my songs, then he played one of his compositions. And so we did this band. And then he said to me, Starlite, I've got a band for you. I think you should get a band with a drummer. And I'd never played in a big band with a drummer before. And I took weeks. I was like, I'm not sure about this, you know. And it was really funny. So he ended up being my guitar player in my band. I was on acoustic guitar then, and a female bassist, Val Nelson, and Noah Engelnick, who was on drums. And we played all original music. And they told us on the Isle of Man that they wouldn't pay or they wouldn't go to see any original music. It had to be covers. And I just thought, sod that, you know, time's short. It's like, So we managed it fine. We played festivals. It was brilliant. And then we accidentally fell in love, Simon and I. So we decided to start over. See, this is a story and a half, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we thought we'd start over again. So we had our black Labrador hummock, and we decided to move to France and go on an adventure together, as we were going to go to Europe and live lives as touring musicians. And Simon already had a small studio on the Isle of Man. So he brought a load of gear with him. And he was just recording. He'd been in bands, and he had a record deal with Island in I think it was the 80s, 90s. I think, yeah, and just trying to remember his story, just to put it into context. So he did his first solo album, and then he was on his second one doing Americana, and he got this bass player from the UK called Andy Seward, who is one of the best bassists of the UK folk scene. He works for the BBC as well, and he came over, and he was producing Simon's album, because Simon had never really done an acoustic album before. He was always electric. And so we were in France getting in a cheap old bass, because it was cheaper for us to get a bass in from Dublin than it was for him to bring his beautiful bass over. So we were messing around one night, and I had this bass on. I was just going to dinner. Simon just looked at me and said, "You're a bass player?" I'm like, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not." And he said, "The one. It's like the way you play. You're a bass player. You're natural." And I just thought, "No, I don't believe you. You know, come on." I was like 44 at the time. It's like, what do you mean? Well, you know, it's like, I am not going to start playing bass, right? It's like, I'm not going to. So anyway, a few months went by, and I thought, I actually really like bass, you know. It's like, I love a groove. I love to dance. You remember the chain from Fleetwood Mac? Ding, 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 ding. Everybody plays that on acoustic guitar, because that's the first thing you can do on that bottom string, you know. And it's like, so we ended up moving to Spain, where we opened up a residential recording studio. We'll talk about that later. And that's when I started to take it seriously. And then someone surprised me. My first bass, I decided, because I've got short fingers, I got a Gretsch Thunderjet, a short scale. So I started learning on that. And I was so happy. It was great. You know, it's this really, really gorgeous bass. And then for our wedding present, he bought me a Mike Lowell M4V Jazz. Nice. And I was like, it was funny because I was so happy about it. And then I was thinking, but why do I need another one? I've already got one. I've got it's your hands. Why do I need one? You know, and you're so naive. You don't know, do you? I mean, some people only have one bass and they love it. But I was just thinking, tonally, for me, it was actually good to learn. So that's how I learned. So that's really the story. accidentally, really. And just because I think Simon saw that in me, and it kind of piqued an idea, and then I started. That's how I fell in love with it. I just got totally addicted.
Nice, very nice. Well, I would take it that pretty much you're self-taught because you had such a wealth of musical information before that. So you haven't had to necessarily, and it sounds like it just fell right into it.
Yeah, I think there were a few things that we started off, and the difficulty with learning. This is partly why I wanted to write the Walking the Bassline article as well, because it's like sometimes you can take for granted that you think everybody knows the certain bits of knowledge. That the most difficult thing is like choosing what to learn. Mm-hmm. And first of all, it was like, it's so easy to just go like, da, 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 da. And it's like, yeah, but actually what I realized when I looked into it, my technique, I had to really work out what technique I was going to do. So I didn't make as much progress to start with because I realized, because obviously I'm really fortunate to have Simon sort of like there as to consult with, but he let me find that out about where I wanted to play and how I wanted to play. And so that's that for me. So I did, but I had to look online. I had to look at how other bass players. And so I have self-taught, but then I guess I've learned from we also worked out 4 bass players that would be influential. I said, okay, who do I study? Because I'm so into songs. So it was John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, Jack Bruce from Cream, Andy Fraser from Free, and Carl Radle, who played with Eric Clapton from EC, because EC was here. Carl Radle, that man, the lines he plays, I just didn't understand that a bass could be so melodically beautiful, and it really melted me. So I spent some time really studying their work, really, and just because part of it as well was trying to find out what's my job. Okay, I'm a rhythm, I'm melodic, and all that. It's like we're the peacemakers, aren't we? We're like, hey, come on. I know we're the engine room, but we're also there serving, so that everyone can fly. So, yeah, so it is. But I have had a few sort of chats with bassists, and there was a guy in Spain came over and just showed me a bit, and I love talking to bassists. But I guess in a way, it's really funny that I don't talk a lot about bass. So I've had to really watch and chat more, because I kind of almost don't have time to chat about my passion, So this is a really lovely time, and I'm trying to get my words to not be so rusty. So thanks, Raul.
Oh, my pleasure. Well, and one of the transitions that's a little difficult sometimes for guitar players is when you pick up your bass, to not think like a guitar player, because very commonly guitarists are filling space. If you're doing an acoustic, you're filling with that melodic. And granted, you may have a certain amount of percussive contribution. You may be adorning something, but the guitar players tend to have to fill it in so much. Whereas I think one of the things that we've seen with so many bass players is it's more strategic placement of where the notes are going and the space in between and the timing and how things hit, and creating that dramatic effect with what we're doing, instead of I have to put so much stuff here. And so many times I've heard of bassists that played other instruments and were reeled back, and they were told, don't do that quite so much because you're doing too much. But on the other hand, you have classic examples. I think Paul McCartney is one of the best of somebody who was not a bassist to begin with. And so his melodic approach changed the way that so many people were looking at bass. And they're going, well, wow, that really works nicely. So maybe I should do it this way.
And for me, I didn't want to get a rule book, because then I'm just going to be like a carbon copy of this whole production line. So I always felt that I wanted to just do me, whatever that is. So I always start off with, I love a groove. And I really, and to be honest, I'm a bit shy, but I'm not when the music gets you, because when the bass gets you just like, come on, and you start roaring all this. Sometimes it's so gorgeous. And I'm really happy to serve the song, to serve the band, to not play. And Andy said to me, he said, in all my years, he said, I've never been asked to play more notes. And it's like, and it's true. And I always remember that from early on. And so I'd rather build it up as opposed to crowd it and just get a feel. I always like to start off with the feel, really, and then work out, and then gradually work out when everyone's trying to settle in, what they're doing, and then go, well, actually, I just need to. There's a little gap there at the end as a turnaround. Maybe I'll just give them. But I feel like I'm still like 6 months old. I'm going to spend a lifetime learning, and every song teaches me something new, which is what the way I like to learn, really, is through the writing and the playing of a song. It keeps my interest.
Nice. Well, and as you mentioned, your partner Simon, you guys have a tremendous body of work, numerous albums. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of that trajectory of this work?
Well, when we moved together, when we got to Spain, we'd never had. Well, he'd been in my band, and I toured with him playing bass on his band, his solo band, or his name, Simon Campbell Tour. And then we thought, why don't we do something together? And that's really when the band started. So we gave ourselves 2 weeks. And he'd never done a blues album, yet he'd been nominated for Best British Blues Male Vocalist in the British Blues Awards a couple of years before with his solo album. So we thought, I've never recorded blues at all. So we just wrote Bluebery Pie in 2 weeks. And we flew over Steve Gibson, who's a fantastic drummer. He plays with Sad Cafe. I mean, he's played with the best, toured all over Europe and the world. And he flew over, and we just spent 2 days grooving in together. We'd never played before. So that was Bluebery Pie. And then we recorded that, and we've got Johnny Henderson, who flew in as well. And he's a fantastic Hammond and keyboard player. So he plays with Robin Ford, and he was Kirk Fletcher, and also Matt Schofield, the blues guy. In fact, Matt and Simon were born in the same town.
Wow.
And we ended up headlining Wangaratta Festival of Blues and Jazz on the Saturday night, and Matt was playing on the Friday in Australia, just north of Melbourne. And that's when they first met. They had to go, we had to fly halfway around the world. And it was like, do you know what? I was born in Fairfield Hospital, and it was just so fun. Anyway, so that was the Bluebery Pie. And my grandmother, my Nana Betty, is on the front of the album, because, we didn't really want to have, because the artwork is really just as much, it's very important to us as much as the music. And I just so didn't want to be one of those Dwayne Darlene type, it's like that cheesy couple on the front. I didn't want to do that. I'm like, and then I said, I know, we've got a song about grandma's cooking. Bluebery Pie is about the fact the world is changing, but when you go home and your grandma gives you that blueberry pie, the world hasn't changed. It's still the same. It was one of those, nothing like home cooked food.
Yeah.
So I've got a picture I took of my Nana Betty. It was a school project when I was about 14, black and white, and she was still standing there. I was trying to focus, and with her nose trying to get it up anyway. And just out of a joke, she went, "Oh," and I pressed the shutter as she did that. So it's kind of like it was a bit of a joke. And she got nominated for. It was best album cover in a radio station in Atlanta, and they called her the Rebel Grandma, which is so sweet. So that was So it's like the storytelling of all that. So with Bluebery Pie, and then we got nominated for best album of the European Blues Awards for that one. So we just thought, should we go on the road? So we left Spain and went up north, because that's really where a lot of the gigs are, and went back to the Isle of Man for a bit. And then what I did as well, which is really important for me, I cut my chops we had a band called the Devil Note. So we didn't go under our name, but I gigged twice a week playing Free and Golden Earring, Radar Love, and all, learning my chops. Mm-hmm. We played, the Isle of Man TT races. We played 17 gigs in 16 days. Oh. We rocked on the grandstand, we rocked in campsites, we just rocked the island for it was just, but I learned how to play in front of drunks. I learned how to, I transposed everything by ear. So I learned how to really get that detail in, and it taught me so much. So by that time, we then moved to Germany, and that's when we decided to write our second album, which is called The Language of Curiosity. Mm-hmm. And we just come back, and then we had Josh Phillips was playing with us, who's the Hammond guy from Procol Harum. So he was doing a couple of gigs with us, and we'd just been over to London on the January. And when we met him, he just said, "Hold your hands out," and he put some of that alcohol gel on our hands. He said, my sister's a nurse, and I think there's going to be something really bad going around the world soon. Really weird. So we ended up in Germany. We did the Language of Curiosity, and we had a smaller studio there, as in the place is smaller. So we recorded some of that there, and then where do we do? Gosh, I get confused about, because we've moved so much and so much has happened. So the second album was The Language of Curiosity, and that was moving away from the blues a bit, because it's almost like, even though you like your favorite meal, what's your favorite meal? A nice chicken curry or something, or a nice Thai salad. You wouldn't want to eat that every day. And so this is what I was thinking about the music, So we decided to change it up a little bit and explore the boundaries outside of that, songwriting, and getting a little bit more of a Spanish sort of Portuguese influence on one song, just changing that up. So we did the second album, Language of Curiosity, and then the last one we've just done, which is our recent one, our third. We've released two live albums as well, because we really love that. So when we go to the Met in Manchester, it's set up for live recording with a fantastic desk out back with all the lines through. So we've released two live albums, and then this last one, it's called Starlite 1, and we wanted to do something. We felt we needed to do something different, and it all started with a dream that I had. And I woke up one morning. I said, "You'll never believe this. I had this weird dream. There were like these friendly monkeys under the stairs, and this alien frond had come through this hole, and it was winding its way around the chimps. So they were all like going, and preening each other, oblivious to the fact this is an alien frond that's not nice and it's going to eat them." And so I'm going, "Oh my God, I've got to save these monkeys." So I'm going, "Here, monkeys." And I'm trying to get them away from this alien frond, So anyway, I managed to get them away. And as I turn around, it's like one of those cheeky little, it smiled at me, and it had these metal teeth, like, "Oh, so you got my lunch, did you? Thanks." Yeah. So we built off that, and then we started a playlist. It was called Six Friendly Monkeys Living Under the Stairs, and we saturated ourselves in, because we went to see The Smile 2 years ago, Radiohead, with Tom York and Johnny Greenwood. And so we started off with Music Concrete, and we had loads of different influences and bands, from Silver Apples all the way through to Glenn Campbell, just Jacques Brel, Scott Walker, Roxy Music, just everybody. And then we're sequential artists as well, so we play with a sequential Tempest drum machine. So anyway, we ended up getting a Prophet 5, and we got a Waldorf, and we started experimenting, bringing in some synths into our playing. And so we wrote a concept album called Starlite 1, and and we played everything on it except for the drums. So so that's our latest album. That's story based as well. It's very much, our stories are all about life now. Like, we've got a song called The Voting Machine, and that's obviously about the importance of voting machines, and it changes society, it changes history, and all the controversy that we've had over voting machines. AI as well, about people falling in love with their AI, and about, hey, you can't be in love with that human because I'm more important. And a real story happened. I wrote a song for my mum called The Coat about 10 years ago. My mum died 35 years ago. She had early onset Alzheimer's. It was really aggressive. I was 24. Actually, my dad had a heart attack when I was 24, and then she'd already was developing the Alzheimer's. I know, it's in one of my blog articles. And I wrote this love song for my mum about the time that I missed the fact she couldn't be at my wedding, and about how much I loved her, and the fact that so it's called The Coat, and it's a love song, and it's for everybody. And you'll if you know anyone with dementia, you'll recognize the story from it, really. And it's a love song. So I finally felt the time was right to put it on Starlite 1. So that's on the album. And wow, you wouldn't believe this, and it's really exciting because, we're talking because we write to each other, and I'm like, hey, I've got this idea.
Yes.
And I thought, well, we're doing Starlite 1. It's essentially a spaceship, because I ended up writing a narrative about it, about how I took the monkeys and we went into the spaceship at Starlite 1. And it's an existential crisis almost, a bit like, the Elon Musk thing with, going to Mars.
Yeah.
Very, very topical, I think, right now. I thought I could do with some footage of space. So I wrote to NASA. I just wrote an email, dear NASA, this is what we do. Would it be possible if you could give me some high definition footage for what we were doing as well, because I'm running ahead now. We were doing a multimedia presentation for one night out of the 2-week UK headline tour, which is a massive, great big cyclorama screen. And for every song, there was a video backdrop, which I cut. So we created it all, but I couldn't find proper space footage for this, right? Because it was being filmed and recorded.
Mm-hmm.
You will not believe, they wrote back. I was like, no way. So I think Bert wrote to me, and then somebody else did. And then the next thing I know, here you go, here's some links. And I said, oh, thank you. And it was so wonderful. So we've got A Part of Me Is Broken Part 2, which is the final song on the album. And on the actual night of the concert, it's just full of NASA space. In fact, the whole gig started with a rocket launch from NASA.
Oh, nice.
So it was like, ladies and gentlemen, there was this old guy, from like the 60s. Welcome, we're just going to watch this launch, whatever. And then it goes to 10, 9, And it's just, so we had a NASA rocket launch to launch the concert. And then all this footage at the end. And so the Starlite 1 album will be complemented by Starlite 1 video projects, which we'll be releasing. So we've done The Voting Machine, and we've done Saving Me, which is about certain religious beliefs, really, and that kind of role of faith in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see we're really like passionate and trying to like change it up and make things exciting for people, because there's so much noise, there's so much distraction that, and it's also, we only live this one time. Why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Absolutely. Well, and there's so much exciting stuff. One common thing that you've mentioned is the presence of a studio, where kind of wherever you've been, and you're currently in Portugal now. And so you are Supertone Records studio. A little bit about that whole facet.
Yeah. So when we decided that our life, when Sam and I got together, we got to really think about what it is we wanted to do with our lives. And recording music, it was it's in both our hearts, and we both had the same ethos. It's like leaving a time capsule, but also just it means that people can listen to it, and you don't have to physically travel everywhere. So that's what was really important to us. And so we decided to sell at a flat, and we sold everything that wasn't music related, and we invested it in gear. So we started off with a Trident desk, actually, in Spain, which used to be down in El Cortijo Studios in Spain, where Alvin Lee was working on it as well. And so we had like a desk where Kylie flew over, and she was doing her vocals. Mariah Carey was there. So, and when we went to pick up the Trident, this lady turned up, and we didn't know, and so we got a chap to come up with us to Brian Hayward, beautiful man. He came up for a week to install it for us, because he used to work for Trident. Okay. It was Alvin Lee's widow, Evie. I mean, she didn't say. So we were hanging out for a few hours. Isn't it sweet? He's only told us when we were halfway up the road. So the studio thing really is, Simon's a music producer, and so he loves that. He's really into it. And it's like, it just makes sense. If he's a music producer and he's engineering, and it's like, why not? We have gone into like Rockfield Studios down in Monmouth when it was cheaper to, when we were touring, to get Johnny Henderson to come up from an hour away. Mm-hmm. And we just booked that for the day to track some, piano and Hammond and stuff. That was easier then, but it just gives you liberty, because then you can scratch, record ideas. You can, and it's also this. I mean, this is the schoolroom of life. Yeah. And I've got to say, though, Simon does inspire me. I mean, I learn a lot. And we do co-produce, and that's the thing. He is the music producer, and he does the technical stuff. But I also bring, because I co-write everything with him as well. It's very, like, it's very rare. We will write occasionally separately, but we usually co-write together. We're always like helping each other, you know, just polishing up bits of the song.
Mm-hmm.
So the studio for me, I don't feel right if we don't have it. So we live here. So we found we moved just before Brexit to Portugal, and this was the only house in the whole of Portugal that had a 100-meter square room with about 8 meters. No, I don't know, 7-8 meter ceiling. But to my right, it's got a tiki bar in it. So it's got this like rattan, it's like, what? And it used to be some Portuguese party room.
Oh.
So we've got a kitchen and an outside space and a few small fields and stuff. So it's a perfect little place. When I was writing it as well, it's like for walking the bass line, the thing that really improved my playing and getting back to the bass again, because I know we've gone all round the cosmos almost to back. I started playing and recording almost from like week one. We were always just tracking things, and that really changed my playing up, because it meant that I could hear my unmuted strings. I could hear all, you know, when you're naked. I mean, the feeling of when you play back, when you first start playing and you go, oh,
yeah,
it's not what I thought. Oh, it was awful, and it was embarrassing. And I'm like, yeah, and someone said, yeah, but your strings are ringing. You're not muting. It's like, oh, and just that. But it was the ability to just hear myself, I think, that helped me really work out, okay, I've got to, it's not just about playing melody, it's not just playing on the groove, it's actually all that muting on both hands. It's just like, it's an incredible, it'll take me a lifetime. In fact, I don't think I'll ever get there, but, you know, all I can do is the bass is, it's part of my heart, which helps me connect in with the music, which is such a gift, isn't it?
Indeed.
So with the studio as well, you know, we do track other bands in, and we're just sort of going to start to open that up again. So if you want to come to a studio north of Lisbon, and we specialize in acoustic and rock and electronic. So we can do lots of different genres and country. We can do whatever, you know, whether or not it's just really, and it's a really good opportunity to meet people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and of course, this would be probably the perfect moment, as I've been looking at your Megiddo Thunderbird behind you, to kind of circle back to how you're getting your sound, what you're playing on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the story behind the Starlite T4 Thunderbird was that I didn't know this, but Simon was talking to Mike Lowell about getting me a Thunderbird style Mike Lowell. And then sadly, Mike died in February, and we were in Germany at the time. So I'd already got the M4V, and I just thought, oh, I love this guitar. Right, he didn't let me know. So I was outside, and I came in one day, and he was chatting to this young lad on, like you know, I am with you now. It's like, who are you talking to with that American accent, you know? And he said, oh, Suzy, come and meet Spencer Lowell. And I went, Mike's son? It was like, so we were like, whoa. So we just chatted for about an hour. And together with Simon and Spencer and I, we carried on the project. So I ended up getting this Starlite T4. We designed it, color schemed it. I'm a hip shop endorsee, so they put all that lovely iron on it, and we've got stainless steel frets. And it doesn't lean, it's not as heavy on the headstock. But this is the first guitar that I put round wounds on, because all my other guitars have flats on for Tomastic Infeld.
Yeah. So
I've got this Kurt Mangan rounds on, and it was, oh my God, when you plug that beast in, it's like a dragon. I mean, you know that Avatar you plug in, we're off.
Yeah.
And it's just, but the sound, Raul, the sound of that beast is just an incredible guitar. And that is when, when I started playing. Well, I started playing with a pick 2 years ago. I've got my Dunlop Tortex 73mm. But when you've got the pick on that beast, so, but I love, they've all got different characters, you know, and you can take it nice and easy. And then when you really want to dig in, it's really, and it's all just about flavors, isn't it? Sonic flavors and how it makes you feel. It's all emotional.
Yes.
So, yeah, I love it. I can't believe it, you know. I can't believe it. Because I didn't, you know, I just like the one.
Yeah.
And then I ended up getting 3. So I've got 2 Mike Lowells, and then my stepson James, Simon has 2 beautiful sons from his first marriage. And we were in Brixton on tour a few years back now. And he's in his early 30s now. He used to be a bass player. And do you know what? He brought out this 1974 Fender Precision and said, here you go, Suzy, I want you to have my bass.
Nice.
I'm like, Jim, really? So it's just an honor, you know, to learn as well. Because then when you're tracking with a P bass, you kind of go, now you sit really nice. So you just cut through, you're just well behaved. It's like there's none of that, you know, it really is. It's just a perfect recording instrument, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's absolutely beautiful. So the P bass, so I've got this P bass, which is wonderful. And then the only thing I actually did really want was an acoustic, because when we go out and we jam at friends' houses, you know, I feel like I've got nothing to play. Or, you know, if we're out and we're doing acoustic concerts, you know, it's okay with the M4V. I played that a lot because it's so versatile, but especially with the flats, I pretend I'm playing an upright bass on that, you know, because, you know, it's that, lovely. And then what happened was that someone contacted Roger Bucknell from File Guitars up in the Lake District in the UK. And there was a 2-year waiting list for him to be building these acoustic basses.
Oh, wow.
And then, but it's a bit of a sad story, really, because there's a guy called Joss Clapp who toured with Catherine Tickell and loads of, big on the folk circuit. But he got Lyme's disease and he couldn't play anymore. So we ended up they had a chat, Simon and him, and we basically ended up, he said, we'll put a deposit down. And we saved up for a year to get it because it's very expensive. And then we met at a service station just in the north of England, and we said hello. And I took home this mighty grandfather of a guitar. It's played the Albert Hall. Sting's played it. It's just, it's battered. It's got from the road.
Yeah.
But I've never heard history so deep from an instrument in my life. And the thing is, I thought, I'd like to stand up and play it. Well, you put a strap on that thing, I can't even see the front.
Yeah.
You have to take a taxi to the F. I can't even reach the end, right?
Oh, wow.
And all I was missing was a sombrero, because it's like out here, and I'm like, I can't play it. So it's such I'm custodian of all these instruments.
Yes.
And I get that completely. So much respect. So really, I think I'm done now. I haven't got enough years left to try and learn more, you know. But I love the fact that I've got them there, that we can work out different emotions with them for whatever needs. So whether or not we're touring as an acoustic duo, or whether or not, you know, I just want to put something gentle on, it's just lovely. I'm very, very blessed.
Nice. There's also another key element, because the instrument is where your sound chain is starting. Now, you do have a choice in instrument cables too, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Well, Simon did a load of research. I know, it's funny because it's great being married to this audio geek, about cables. And so he did a load of testing. And so we've got this Supertone Minap A. It's a guitar cable for passive instruments. So it's no longer than 6 meters long. And it's all about not losing that high end, and it drops off. So that's your maximum length. So he sourced summer cable, which is the best you could get in the world, in his opinion, a bit like, you know, the best lager in the world. But he knows his stuff. We've got like a Neutrik switching jack, so that gold plated, so that it connects, so it doesn't pop. But what he did, we've got it in our Supertone shop, because Supertone's a studio, it's a record label, and we also have our own products. And we made it really cost effective. I think it's like 50 quid. I don't know what that is in dollars, because we want people to use it, because it's so important. And we had some naysayers, I'll have you, the really professional ones as well. And Simon used to say, just take it away, because he doesn't need to sell them. He just wants people to have a good sound, and he's really into that, you know, that philanthropic thing. And they come back and go, oh, you're right. There is a difference. And I'm not just saying that, these guys have said it. So yeah, so even down to the cable. So you've got that beautiful, I mean, obviously we know the sound here. So start with your hands. You're so lovely, by the way. I'm really enjoying chatting to you. And I get a bit excited. Starts with your hands into this beautiful beast, cable out. And before, when I first started off, it was just a tuner, and into my high watt. And I had a 6x10 Bergantino cab. That's how I played for a few years, just to get my sound, you know. And then I moved. I mean, this is the thing. We're growing up a bit, aren't we? I've got to say, Raul, you know, these audio guys, especially with this British sound, it's their tradition. They're like, used to say they were like Nimrods. You never make them anymore. You know, they break the mold. These guys just aren't born anymore. They've come from an era of a time. And so with the high watt, we ended up getting it. We thought it through a guy called Roland Lumley in the UK. He's like Mr. Ant-Man for repairs. So he does it. Everyone that comes into Manchester. In fact, he is like one of the valve repair guys in the UK. So we ended up buying the high watt, and he fixed it up. So we got the high watt through Roland, and then we, you know, Matt amp, like from Orange amps, Matt amps. Well, we know the very troublesome Jeff Lewis, who owns Matt amp. And when I say troublesome, he's very troublesome. You have to go in with a packet of biscuits, right? And he makes you tea. And if he likes me, so he gives me his boiled sweets, right? Yeah. It's so funny. But Simon and him was chatting away. So we wanted a different kind of voicing for my guitar. We basically wanted it to develop a bit more. So Simon and Jeff got together. They voiced it together. And so we've now got the Supertone Minap amp. So we're working in collaboration, Supertone and Minap amp, for this new valve amp. So it's 200. And Jeff has had the iron, you know, the big bits of iron, the transformers, specifically wound because they don't make them right anymore. So he has a company that's doing them for him. So I don't talk gear talk very much, by the way. I leave that to Simon. So if apologies if I have anything that I'm saying that's incorrect. So it's 35 kilos. And so I've got the Supertone Minap amp, and she's fantastic. And then recently we've just designed a 2x15. Okay. So it's a Supertone with Weber speakers. So we're now going to be selling those because not many people are saying 2x15s. But there's this whole resurgence again, though. Like from the old ones, you've got Tom York's using a 2x15, Glenn Matlock's using 215s. And but I tell you what it is, it's not just about this trend, it's about the sound. When I heard it, I'm like, woo! Yeah. It was just so bassier than a bass thing. And that's the one thing I'd say, actually, is that I hadn't realized just how many flavors the gear can give you. And it is a complete playground for sound, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and that brings to the kind of one of the final parts in between your instrument cable and the amplifier. You've got a pedal board set up as well. So there's more fun.
I know. Right. Now, we were on tour for 2 weeks, this headline tour in the UK in October, and it literally just got put together like a week or two before. So I'm learning with it. And I think it's a really good thing to be honest about and to actually experiment with. So I've got like an Ernie Ball pedal at the beginning, and I love that. And that's really good for swelling in sound. But when it's off, and I've got my turbo tuner already always on, which means I can tune on the fly, which I really like because, you know, when you're digging in a bit sometimes and it's a bit hot and sweaty, you can just go that bit flat, can't you? Yeah. So it's like, great. So, and there's some gear, like we've got the Supertone Fuzz. I did have one Fuzz pedal actually, which is Supertone Fuzz, which is designed with a guy from Liverpool and Simon, and they voiced it on like a big muff. I love these names. Yes. I mean, honestly, this is the kids' playground. Even the way they name things, I'm like, so, and she's over there actually. So I've got the newest part of my gear, right, is the Line 6 DL4 Mark II, which will be like all those sort of echoes and things. So looping. And I was experimenting with that. So it's like, it's kept all the vintage sounds from before because I was watching loads of videos on it. But it's got a load of new sounds as well, and delays and reverbs and stuff. And the looper's really, the first time I ever used it, you know, we were doing a live stream. I'm like, if I get this wrong, I mean, I know I can do it again. But it's just learning that confidence, isn't it, and that timing and stuff. So the center of my board is the gig rig, Atom, and G3. So everything goes in through there, and it's great because it means that I can set my EQ, I can set my compressor, I can put fuzz in for this song, and so I've set it all up for when we were touring. It was great, so I could just go to the next song. Okay, that one. Yeah. It's great. The only thing we're going to do is we're going to change the top of it so that we can actually see when you go into the banks underneath, you can't really see what you've programmed in. There's only 8. So, and I'm still really new with all this. And what I am doing, and this is another reason why I wanted to write the articles on walking the baseline, is that everyone can learn with me. I might just be, learning, because if I'm learning, and I have some experience with it, so it's not totally green, but it's on the lighter shell, moving into, experience with it. And I wanted to ask the questions I'm asking. I think that's probably what maybe, hopefully, lots of other people will be maybe asking similar things, because you can forget that you've learned that because you think you've known it for so long. So that's the whole thing, really. And just to kind of document, but also, and to really dig deep, it gives me a reason to dig deep into, well, how does that work? Because like when I learn to drive a car, I like to find out how things work. I don't want to just like turn the ignition on and go, into first gear. I want to know what the engine's doing. Mm-hmm. It's important because that actually makes you a better driver if you know what the vehicle's doing. You feel more complete with it, more connected with it. So, and that's the same with this beast. So there's so much going on. I'm going to get myself. I've had some time to mess around with it. And the POG with the Octaver. I mean, there's just so many possibilities. Yeah, bassland. And I've got to say, though, it's the happiest time ever, though, when I just put my bass around my shoulder. You must know this. And you just have a noodle and you play. And before you know it, it's dancing away. And grin. And you're like, and you just almost feel like you've had some therapy, some soul therapy. I don't understand it. It's alchemy. I mean, it's just so beautiful. And there's so many beautiful bass players out there I didn't even know. I mean, as I knew we were going to talk, and I had to start talking bass as opposed to walking the bass line. Mm-hmm. I was like, sorry, it's a bit cheesy, but I started watching some of your interviews just to get a sense of you as well. And then, but my goodness, there's so many amazing stories from people out there. I mean, it really is.
Indeed.
So, I mean, you've got a great job.
Well, thank you.
And you're very kind. I think you've got a big heart, and you can see that sparkle in your eyes. And both you and Valerie are very passionate, and you're very supportive, and you're very much this bass world. And I feel very honoured to be a part of the collaborative team now with you. And it's like, so this is our first time we got to speak.
Absolutely. Well, and the slight detour. One of the main reasons we actually started Bass Musician Magazine was because so many people didn't know. If it wasn't Sting or McCartney or one of the more prominent players, they didn't know who was holding down the line. And I'd started taking classes, and my teacher would ask me, have you heard of fill in the blank? It could be Jocko. And at the time, I'm like, no, who's Jocko? He says, well, have you heard of, this group? Oh, yeah, I heard the group. Oh, but Jocko played with this group. And as part of the journey, one of the reasons that I feel so fortunate is because the bass players they're the most mellow, chill individuals you can imagine. They're so much fun, and they're so kind, and there's so many that have played with my idols growing up, but they're still so down to earth and humble and nice. And I think that's why I feel also so comfortable, because it's like we've been friends all our lives, and now we have a chance to talk. So again, and we appreciate your contributions, because again, we can reach around the world, and these experiences are very common to all of us. Now, moving away from that, because we're talking about you, is we need to talk about what's coming up next and where the best place for people to find out what's coming up next.
So we're doing the Starlite and Campbell projects, and we've got a double album that we're working on. It's going to be more guitar-based this time. One side and one will be acoustic, because Starlite tours an acoustic duo. So we've got 2 different sets, or 3 actually, that we tour. So we're doing these two albums. With the Starlite one, we've got an overarching project called Starlite One, and you can go to the website, which is starlite.one. And this is our multimedia project. So this is about art installations. And I've got a few tenders going out at the moment to museums and art galleries for installations. There's one that's called In Their Shoes, which is about the shoes of people from, it's the empathy of people that have had a hard life or have succeeded in life, and you see their shoes and you read their story, and it makes it real. Because I always think that you're happy from your feet up. Got a good pair of shoes on your feet.
Yes.
That's really important. Good shoes. And so we're going to be writing music for these installations. I've got another one as well called Raising a Nation, which is celebrating the grandmothers around the world, featuring big granny knickers. I'm really excited about that one. So we're doing these art installations, and I've written some children's stories. Oh, I do some college artwork, so I'm doing some more college artwork. So I did the artwork for our Starlite 1 album. So it's Simon and I on board Starlite 1 with a load of chimps, the chimps from The Dream. You see?
Yes, yes.
And if you look closely on the slot machine, which is the world's first ever slot machine, it's got Planet Earth, nuclear bomb, because we're playing with planet's future. And look even closer, we've got our 2 Labradors, because we have now 4 Labradors in the family.
Oh, wow.
So we've got Hummock and Astro Bobby featured in the album as well. And on the inside, it's the vinyl listening lounge, and Spot the Labradors as well. And it's so much. So I did all the collage for that. It took me weeks because I had to do the community. Mm-hmm. And they all had to, like, there's some dodgy guys in the back left doing some bad dealing. And it's like some jokers to the right, you know. I mean, it's seriously, that sounds like a song. So we've got the artwork. Musically, though, it will be the visual art. We'll have the music with it. So we've got like the rock sort of songwriter album, the acoustic album, the artwork, the installations. Who knows? But that's on the Starlite 1 website, that multimedia project. And what we did was to focus. We wrote an artist statement at the beginning of the year, just to find out what we believed in, and what we stood for. Mm-hmm. So that really helped focus us on what we're doing as artists, you know, because like Kim Gordon, she's an artist. I was checking her out last night, and we're going to see her in in a couple of months' time. Mm-hmm. And she went to art school. She's an artist. Like Lick Cave, we're going to see him as well. He's coming here, and he makes things and he writes, and he's a beautiful writer. So, and we were going to go and see The Smile in Valencia, but they cancelled because Johnny Greenwood's had an infection. So that's the Starlite 1 project. When it comes to Starlite and Campbell, we've got a Starlite, which is lite-campbell.com, which is that's my band with Simon. And then I've got and it's him that made me do this, really, because, you know, I'd like to stay at the back and play bass. But he's lovely. He's been really, really supportive of me and encouraged me. And so I've got my own website, SuzyStarlite.com, which is SUZY.starlite.com. And it's got my story, it's got all the gear, it's got hire me, you know, and galleries and blogs. And we've got, and every week we write a blog called Vibes on Substack, which is our thinking piece too. Put our song lyrics up there, and with the video, if we've cut a video for that song at that time, like Gaslight. Mm-hmm. About certain politicians and things, you know. So we've written a diary of the touring musician, just going to the warts and all account of touring. So that's on vibes.starlite-campbell.com, I think. So anyway, it's all, and there's loads. We're everywhere. It's a bit like you say. It's like, I don't know if you know the term. Lights on Blackpool Beach is like, basically it just goes for miles of lights, or we're everywhere, like the lights on Blackpool Promenade sort of thing. So you'll find us, just put us in a search engine and say hello, actually. And that's the one thing I think what I'd like to is connect up with more bass players, you know, because there's some really cool people out there, really cool, really. I like it a lot, and that's why so this, now you've changed my world, you see, because I wanted to share about new bass playing, and you said, come on board. Yeah. And here we are now talking. Well, thanks to you and Valerie. Thank you so much. You're wonderful people.
Absolutely. Well, again, we're very grateful for your contributions to Bass Musician Magazine. So lovely to hear your story, and I'm sure many people can relate to it. Thank you so much for taking time both to make these contributions and to chat with us. Folks, you've seen her here on Bass Musician Magazine, Suzy Starlite.
Thank you.